Yes, I'm Mina SayWhat here at the Hackensack Meridian Health Stage 17 Lounge with actor Nicholas Ashe.
What's going on? Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm good. How are
You're out here doing your thing. I'm good. Thank you for asking. I almost lost my earring today. We talked about that, but I had to go back and, find it. So I'm glad you're here with us. How are things with you?
Good. I've been good, busy, happy. I'm real excited to be back in Manhattan. I grew up on Long Island and parts of Brooklyn.
Wow. So you're actually, people might know you from the OWN network, Queen Sugar, but now you're on Broadway, right? So how amazing is that, being from Long Island, growing up in Manhattan and, the outside area of Manhattan, and now being on Broadway? Is this something you dreamed of when you were a kid?
Definitely. I think I'm going to write an autobiography called From Subway to Broadway.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. That's really good.
Title, but
You better copyright that now before somebody else gets it.
It's a dream come true. Broadway is helmed as being this great white way, and I'm excited that Choir Boy is making it a little bit more black. I think there's room in television and film for stories to be much more specific and patient and sensitive. And I think Choir Boy is doing just that on a bigger scale. And I'm really happy to lend my voice to that and to be a part of that. Yeah. I knew that it happened one day, but for the story to be so specific and to chronicle characters that look and love like me and my family members, it makes this mean that much more.
What are you? I can't, because you know how some people say they look ambiguous. Like, I look ambiguous. You can't really put your finger on where I'm from. Like, where exactly are you from? Exactly. Well, I'm Peruvian, but no one can ever guess that. My grandmother is from Spain, so sometimes I get mixed in with something else. But where are you from? Tell me about your background a little.
I'm black. Yeah, there it is. Interview done. No, I'm black. I know a lot of times people will think that I'm Spanish or something. But I'm black. I grew up in a predominantly Haitian Dominican community on Long Island known as Freeport. So I grew up around a lot of different cultures. And that's really it. I grew up singing in church. I wish my story was much more exciting about being
No, that's dope. What church did you go to?
I went to Zion Cathedral in Freeport. And then my grandma would take me to church when I was younger in parts of Queens. But that was decades ago.
So now that you're moving through this this different world, right, with your background, how do you think Broadway has changed? Has it changed? Does it need to change a little bit more when it comes to diversity?
I think so. I think we're seeing that change. I know Frozen is on Broadway and they've cast a traditional white role as a black role, but I don't think that's enough. I think that when I was younger, I started hearing conversations about representation and what that meant. And I thought it meant just like physically seeing someone. But I think that we have a much more civic duty where if we're putting someone in that role, it should inform the story. A character shouldn't just be a POC for the sake of being a POC. That character should inform the story and allow anyone who has a similar resonance to the things that they're going through the ability to heal through that representation or you know what I mean, to actually matter.
When I talk to a lot of people in arts and movies and film and that genre, I hear that it all starts with the producers and the directors and the writers and the script writers. Is that an aspiration that you have moving forward in your career at some point, to just add some diversity to what is out there right now?
Definitely. My first television experience, which is Queen Sugar, I was working with Ava DuVernay, who made it a point of her production to make sure that she was hiring all women directors. Every episode that we've done has been directed by a woman, and that on her crew, if she's interviewing for a position and she's only seeing a certain demographic, she's not going to hire someone until she at least sees someone that is a woman, that is black, that is other, before she makes a judgment on who she wants to put in that position. Because there are a bevy of artists who don't even get the consideration because people are just working with what they know. But if we're not, changing rules and stepping outside of the box, the world won't reflect the advancements that we're making and the changes that we're making, Yeah.
How old are you? You're so intelligent.
43. I'm grown man. No, I'm 23.
Yeah.
I'm 23.
So you've been kind of in this world of performing since you were 10 years old. You were young Simba in The Lion King It was a tour. Yeah. Tell me about that. Like, what was it like touring at 10 years old? I mean, I couldn't even wrap my hand around doing a tour. Like, you had a full job. I couldn't even make my bed yet. Like,
it was I mean, they didn't call me for the movie though, but no, Lion King honestly changed my life. You know, when I first auditioned for Lion King, my mom had heard about it on the radio. And we went up to
radio's important.
We she heard about it on the radio, and we went up to Harlem, and we thought this was like some local production. You know what I mean? We thought we were going to be doing it with a bunch of the other kids. We thought they would find all of the roles for Lion King within each of the kids. And then after I got the role, they said, we want to invite you to see the show. And we're like, oh, this is already happening. So we sat down in this big Broadway theater, and that was my first Broadway experience as well as my mom's. And I remember thinking, like, I can't do that. Like, I'm a fraud. Like, I should not be here. And then I went on to do it, and that just taught me a lot about work ethic. I was working with people, 2-3 times my age, and it wasn't, oh, Mr. Wilson and Mr. Smith. It was like, oh, hey, Dion, what's up, So I think that, that sort of exponentiated, not a word, but that exponentiated my growth and my maturity then. And I also learned that you could support yourself doing what you love if you work hard and are committed to it. So I think all of those things were embedded from young.
Did your mom know? Like, I would think, like, your mom knew you had these skill sets and you would be like an actor or performer, because that's so young. Like, did you know and tell her, or did she pick up on it and then push you?
It's interesting because when I was in school, I was in chorus, but I think every little like snotty-nosed 8th grader or 8-year-old is in chorus. So I think it wasn't until I was like singing something at home that she heard me, and she was like, you like doing this, and like any good parent, just like, fuel the dream or that want to do more. I honestly didn't take it seriously though until I was getting ready to graduate high school, because before that it was just fun, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was definitely, thanks to Mom that she pushed and was listening to the radio that day. It's just a bunch of kismet. A lot of people ask exactly how I got here. And, supporting yourself in the arts is such a subjective path. It's hard to say, do this and then do that. You have artists who have gone to school. You have artists like myself who have not. But if you have a bevy of people, who are cheerleaders and can promote that, and you're willing to work hard, it kind of works out.
I wanted to ask you that, and it's interesting that you bring it up, because when you're touring at 10 years old, what is school like? Were you homeschooled? Did you finish school? Did you finish high school? Do you ever want to go back to college? Did you go to college? Like, what's the story there?
I was homeschooled on tour, which I absolutely loved, because now, even as an adult, I find myself like willing to read anything that I can get my hands on and being more curious and investigative of the world and how I receive information. So I'm grateful for that time. I think when I went back to school, I was like the weird kid. They were like, that's Simba. You was Lion King, right? You know what I mean? But
Young Simba from the bottom of the top or something.
That's what they called me. That's what they called me in high school. And then I made sure I graduated. It's funny, actually. I'm working on Choir Boy on Broadway now. But my first job out of high school was this exact show. At the second stage, we were like in the basement. We didn't know what the production was going to be. So I made sure I finished high school, and I didn't get the opportunity to go to college, but I find that these 4 years on Queen Sugar have felt like freshman, sophomore, junior year of something. I feel that coming back to a piece that I've done before affords me knowledge, and I have just greater objectivity over what those years of my life were like. You know what I mean? Hindsight is 20/20. Yeah. I'm sure you could look back on 16, 17-year-old self and acknowledge the mistakes and traumas or things that you still may be working through. Mm-hmm. So I think I've received a sort of education on the streets. Right. You feel me?
Yes. Yeah. So you're coming back to Queen Sugar, or you're like done and now you're just on Broadway?
We film like February to August of every year. So this kind of fit perfectly in that gap to be doing Choir Boy in New York. But as soon as we close March 17th, I fly to New Orleans March 18th, and we start season 4.
Good Lord. When do you have time for personal time?
Never. Never.
So you're not dating?
No, I'm not dating right now.
Why?
You just said I ain't got no time.
You got to make time for the things that are important to you.
That's very true. I think it would take. I see why in Hollywood a lot of artists date other artists, because we're the type of people that can't be in a text thread every second of every day. You know what I mean? Like, it's like checking in, hey babe, you good? And then like disappearing for 3 days and being like, hey, sorry, I had that event or I'm working. So if I could find, someone who's considerate of that, then maybe we can move.
Someone that allows you to ghost for 3 days? Where are you gonna find this person? Like, does it? I like who? And keep something like that word.
3 days is maybe dramatic, but maybe maybe like a phone call, once a day. You good?
Right.
It's difficult, maintaining not only like a intimate love life, but even with family, I find myself investigating how I can be a better brother or a better son, because I'm just pretty elusive, when you're drowning yourself into works like Choir Boy that requires so much of you, and for you to show up authentically, in addition to the rehearsals genuinely being 12-hour days, it's hard to balance everything. So there's a lot of sacrifice that comes with this too. So you got to be serious about it. Otherwise, it's like, why are you wasting, you and your loved ones' time,
Yeah, I know. I have to sacrifice a lot too, and then prioritize and things like that. So you mentioned like rehearsal and like kind of like doing like trying out, I guess. Like, how did you try out for Young Simba? Like, what did you have to do? Did they have you like read a script, or did you have to do like a little, like, did you do the noises? Like, do you have to do noises? Like, how does that work?
They had me crawl around the room on all fours and roar like a lion. No, they had we were singing songs from the movie and stuff, and
sing. Wait.
And my mom, who, that was her first Broadway show. She had no idea of being like a momager. She was no Kris Jenner, but she just had good instincts that I think made me a stronger actor. So we would go home and they gave us this little CD of how to become Young Simba, and she would turn the volume up to like 100, and I would be like singing, and she would just keep turning it up, and she'd be like, I can't hear you, like sing louder, like, and it was awful then. Like, I'd get upset and like start crying, like I don't want to do this anymore. But looking back, she was just like trying to make sure that I was working hard and being the best. So that was the audition process for that. I'm gonna tell you about my Queen Sugar experience. I walked into the room with Ava in there, and she had given me these sides and things. And after the audition, she like sent all the executive and important old people out of the room. And she sat across from me, and she was just like, so what's up? I was like, what's up? She's like, nothing. I'm just, checking in. How was your day? I was like, man, I had a long ass day. Like, I missed my subway here, so I thought I was running late. And she just wanted to make sure she was working, like with humans and everything.
Someone who's not a weirdo.
Yeah, which was the complete, I'm a little weird, but I guess she wanted
No, but you can be weird and have a conversation. She didn't want like a weirdo that doesn't speak.
Yeah, exactly. Which completely juxtaposes my Choir Boy audition, because in Choir Boy we're singing a lot of Negro spirituals, and we're finding ways to modernize that text. You literally hear in the show how Keep Your Hand on the Plow has evolved in 2018 to Keep Your Eyes on the Prize, and we hear the evolution of these songs and how we've repurposed gospel music. I remember that was my like worst audition ever. I still to this day,
Choir Boy or
Boy, don't know what they saw. So coming back in this time around, having my Queen Sugar experience, I just felt newly confident. And again, hindsight is 2020. Last time I auditioned for this thing, I was in high school. So now to be outside of it, I just feel newly repurposed. Like I have a new skill set to be able to approach the work that I do.
You ever have aspirations of being an artist or anything like that? I mean, I haven't heard you sing, but you sing a lot, clearly. I mean, Young Simba, the circle of life. And and now you're singing on Broadway. I know sometimes it's taboo because then people won't take you serious in one world versus the other. But is that anything that crossed your mind ever?
Yeah, I think I want to do it all, honestly. I have huge ambitions to liaison into directing and producing and all of that. The singing career, it'd have to be on my own terms, you know what I mean? I think a lot of, at least what I listen to, is artists who can be authentic to themselves, who can be as expressive or emotive as they want to be. You wouldn't catch me out here ripping off wife beaters. You know what I mean?
Trey Song in it.
I don't think I could do that. I mean, if that's genuine to him, kudos. But I think I'd have to investigate what my music would even sound like. I don't know if I got the bars and stuff to be rapping. And I think right now I'm much more interested in the acting and using music to serve story. As of right now, we're gonna have an interview next year, and I'm gonna be like, so my album dropping right now. Go to iTunes, you know what I mean? But as of now, that's not first on my list. I got a lot of things to do.
How about something like Empire? Like something scripted where you're performing someone else's music,
I mean, I'd be down.
Lee Daniels, he's amazing.
Lee Daniels is fantastic. I love that there are so many, not only, artists of color, actors of color, but you're starting to see a lot more producers, directors, showrunners that are of color, that are women. And I'm so happy to usher that new golden age of television and film in, because a lot of the people that are in those positions and that I work with can remember, a decade or two ago, for some of them even 5-6 years ago, where that was not the case. So I think I've been a little bit spoiled that at the head of every production I've been a part of is a very smart woman or a very smart, black man that's sort of heading the charge. I think I've learned a lot from that.
So how involved is Oprah? Is Oprah involved at all with Queen Sugar? Because you mentioned Ava, so I'm thinking you work very closely with Ava. But how hands-on is Oprah?
Oprah, she's our fairy godmother. I also have a chip in my neck, so I can't say anything bad about Mama Oprah.
I would never even ask you to. We would lose our jobs, right? Like all of us in this room. Like it's not happening.
For a whole day. No. I do love Oprah, and I think why Queen Sugar is so successful and the OWN network, and she's the first and only black woman owner of a network, of a cable network. I think it's so successful because she's an artist through and through. This is an actress. This is a writer. This is someone who understands what it's like to, have the camera on her, but also be behind the camera. So I think that she's in a real specific place where it's about more than figures. It's about the actual emotion, what audiences are getting. She feels really indebted to what should be emitting through the television when people are sitting on their couches, because she literally, was syndicated on television as a talk show host, where she literally went into the audience the way you're holding your mic now. And
I'm gonna be Oprah. I'm gonna be the Latin Oprah.
You get a car.
I'm gonna hand out iPhones. You get an iPhone. You get an Alexa. You get an Alexa.
But she knew, what these people in her audiences wanted to talk about, what they were struggling with, what their familial disagreements were. And I think that now she's putting that into scripted television, and that's why everything is so potent and resonates so much, because she's not just shooting in the dark. She knows the conversations that need to be had because she's had them.
And there's stories that need to be told that no one was telling, like Greenleaf. I am obsessed. Obsessed with Greenleaf.
Here's the thing, though. I don't have cable, so I'm waiting for the next season to come out on Netflix. So I'm not fully caught up, but I can't wait to be.
You need a Fire Stick, boo.
You can't talk about that on there. Fire Stick.
I am obsessed. I love Greenleaf. And it's like, these are stories that we hear of, a pastor and his family and some of the things they might be struggling with as an everyday family, and just to see it play out, and it's juicy. I'm like, yes, Oprah, you're doing a good job.
Escándalo, yes.
I thought you were in Spanish. Wait a minute.
I told you I grew up with Dominicans, though. We're going to do the rest of the interview in Spanish now. So, what's interesting is that you hear pastor or the story about a mega church and you think of one thing, but I think Oprah and her team find a way to spin it on its head and introduce like subplots that you didn't expect. And the same thing with Queen Sugar. You hear that it takes place on this plantation and you suddenly think that it's this period piece, but it's 2018, it's modern, and it's chronicling the land and everything. I'm sure people may also have assumptions about what Choir Boy could be. You see our promo and it's like the 5 of us there and like our Glee Club jackets, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna watch Glee. Like this is gonna be some happy thing. But Terrell McCraney, who is our playwright, who also wrote Moonlight. I don't know if you saw Moonlight.
Oh, amazing! Of course, I watch all the movies that are up for like Oscars and then and Academy Awards and things like that. No, I just go and watch them.
Awesome, yeah. But he's our playwright. He also wrote that. He's digging so much deeper than just Glee Club. Like the nature of this music is not, the top 100 pop hits. This is like actual ancient text. The first like documented anything of what slavery was and how our people moved through it. And he's bringing that to the stage today. And you always hear about how things are timely now. But I think even when we did this show in 2013, we were a little bit ahead of the conversation. The story has a lot of gay themes, what it means to come of age in 2018. And those conversations, although they were happening, we hear about it so much more with people identifying outside of gender, even outside of sexual orientation, using pronouns and things. And Terrell is spearheading that conversation for an audience now that can receive it despite their age, despite their level of comfort with the subject. So I hope people don't write anything off. Don't judge a book by its cover across the board. But I hope especially with these works of arts that are written by people of color, that they trust that there's not just one singular experience. There are so many facets of what the African American experience is in America, of what the gay experience is, in and outside of America even. So it's more than one thing, and that's why there's room for all of us. You can't just say I like Empire or Queen Sugar. It's like we're doing something different. We're tapping into different parts of these experiences.
You're so smart. What's next for you? I feel good about you.
Oh, yeah?
What do you like? Where do you see yourself? I know that quote. We know when you go to these job interviews, you're like, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Like, do you have a plan, or you're just kind of living in the moment?
I think the trick is to have a loose plan, but allow yourself to weave in and out of that and sort of go with the flow. And thank you for calling me smart, by the way. I think I got a couple texts from people that would disagree with you, but
well, that's because you're ghosting on them for 3 days.
Right. Honestly, immediately next is Choir Boy. The show runs from now until St. Patrick's Day, so March of 2019. And then I'll be going to do season 4 of Queen Sugar, which I'll be filming until August. I feel so inspired by working with people like Ava and Terrell and Oprah that I really want to make sure that I'm writing, that I'm directing. Every summer I go back to Freeport and I give a scholarship to those young artists that want to break out of what is the norm on Long Island. Even though Long Island is so close to the city, I didn't know what Manhattan was until I was 17. And it was like Dorothy landing in Oz. I was like, so any artist, that I can find in Freeport that is hungry for that is a rapper or a singer, I make sure to go back and sort of liaison what they're doing into what they can be doing. Because I'm a huge advocate for, supporting yourself, doing what you love. And I don't know. I know they're going to play this video back from me when I'm like an old man. I just have huge dreams that I'm trying to run after, trying to eliminate, that fear of judgment, and just trying to go headfirst into producing, directing, giving back is also a big part of my campaign. And just taking care of myself. I don't want you to see me, shaving my head in a public stall, in a couple of days. I'm trying to stay grounded and humble.
I would tweet you.
Yeah. Like, what the hell?
What are you doing, Nicholas?
What are you doing? Yeah, but I'm excited about how it's all been unfolding. And as someone who, a couple years back was unsure of what this would be. Terrell, who wrote the play, I was his personal assistant for a time. So I was running and getting coffees and just so envious of the artists that were working before him. And it's hard to tell yourself when things aren't going the way they're supposed to, that there's a time for everything and everything happens for a reason. But as I find myself doing more of the things I love, I wish I had just trusted the journey a little bit more. So now that I'm in a place where things are going relatively well and I have huger ambitions. I'm trying to remember what I know now, and I would have told myself then that, in 5 years, 28-year-old Nick will be like, and you thought you had it figured out then. Like, there's just a host of challenges and blessings that you're going to walk through, and you're going to come through a better man and a better artist because of it. So,
I didn't learn how to do makeup until 28. So you got a lot of living to do. And I just learned how to cook, like really cook, maybe like 2 years ago. So there's so much that happens in your late 80s. That's how it feels. Your late 20s.
Yeah. No, I can't wait to learn how to do makeup.
You don't know how to do makeup? You're on Broadway.
No, man, I can't do it.
You have to wear makeup, right?
And Choir Boy? No, we just show up. I think the hardest thing about...
Shut up. You don't wear makeup?
No.
he just said it like a different. No.
The hardest thing about Choir Boy and Queen Sugar, being a little bit older than those characters, is shaving every day. Because, like, I shave and the next day I'm, like, wolfing out with a full, moment. But no makeup.
Really? Why is that? Is that, like, the new wave of, like, Broadway, like, all natural, no filter?
I think the show demands authenticity from us, in most Broadway shows, people are like heavily mic'd and there's huge costume. I'm on stage in a Black Panther t-shirt at one point. You know what I mean? Like that's just the nature of like how much of ourselves we're bringing to the piece. And I think that anything that try to eliminate that or cover that would make the show a little campy. It'd be something else. Right. Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about the nature of the Broadway play, people were probably wearing makeup. Yeah. So I was just thinking about the photos for Instagram. So you want them to look good, right?
Yeah, you're right. But no, on TV they beat us down. You know what I mean? With makeup, we got to be perfect and glowing. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at NCKASH. I wish I had made a more catchy handle.
What? That's so complicated.
Nick Ashe, NCKASH. No.
I know, but you could have put Nicholas. That's a nice name. Your mother gave you this name.
It was taken though.
Who's Nicholas Ashe?
I don't know. Some dude is out here, Nicholas Ashing all over Instagram and Twitter. I wish I'd come up with something more catchy, but when they verify you, if you change your handle, they take it away. So I was like, I don't want to lose my blue check. I work hard.
You work with Oprah. You can't like have her call people at Twitter. Like, pull your card.
I'm gonna say Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. You know what I mean? Happy Kwanzaa. Right. Also, can I change my handle because I think I messed up on the
Nicholas Ashe, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mina SayWhat here at the Hackensack Meridian Health Stage 17 Lounge. Thank you for watching.
Peace.